Ladies and gentlemen, and dear friends, dear Mr. Enwezor, the 56th International Exhibition of Art of Biennale will be opened on the 9th of May, 1 month in advance vis-à-vis the latest editions. And with that, we will be celebrating the 120th anniversary of the first exhibition that was set up in 1895. The international exhibition, organized by the curator, will extend over the Giardini and the Arsenale and over the other external areas. And around the curator's exhibition, we will have the various foreign participants. We will have 89 or 90 participants. There were 58 in 1997. 29 of them will be in the historic pavilions in the Giardini and 29 in the spaces dedicated to the various national participations within the Arsenale, where restoration work continues on the 16th century buildings. And the rest will be organized in other buildings in Venice, accompanied by 44 collateral events presented by non-profit organizations and admitted by our curator and included in the catalogue. The press dossier provides further useful information. If you're interested, you will report the news about these initiatives, and so they also include our warm thanks to our partner, Swatch, and to a number of public bodies and institutions, IMAX sponsor, and the many people who have enthusiastically worked to organize the meeting, and who will be managing it up to November the 22nd, 2015. We would like to thank Okwui in particular, his assistants, and all the professional figures within the Biennale. Having said that, let me introduce very briefly this exhibition from the privileged vantage point within the Biennale. This is our 56th edition. The Biennale is now 120 years old, and year after year it moves forward and builds up its own history, which is formed of many memories, but in particular it is made up of a long succession of different perspectives from which to observe the phenomenon of contemporary artistic creation. Let us just focus on the last two examples. Bice Kuriger brought us the theme of perception, the theme of illumination, or light as seen as an autonomous and revitalizing element, together with the notion of the relationship between the artist and the viewer. She focused on an artistic concept that emphasizes intuitive knowledge and enlightened thinking as tools to hone and develop our perceptual capacity and consequently our ability to dialogue with art. Massimiliano Gioni then was interested in observing the phenomenon of artistic creation from within. And he focused his attention on the inner impulses, the inner forces that drive men and artists to create images and bring representations to life. These works are necessary to the artist himself or herself and to create a dialogue with others. He investigated the utopias and anxieties that lead mankind to the inescapable need of creating. The exhibition opened, as you will possibly remember, with a utopian encyclopedic palace and Jung's Red Book. Today, the world seems to be lacerated by divisions and wounds, pronounced inequalities and uncertainties concerning the future. Despite the great progress made in knowledge and technology, we are currently living in an age of anxiety. And once again, Biennale will observe the relationship between art and the development of human, social, and political worlds as external forces and phenomena loom large over it. Our aim is to investigate how the tensions of the outside world can stimulate sensitivities and the vital and expressive energies of artists and their desires, their inner feelings, their inner forces, as Okwui would say, their inner son. Biennale asked Okwui Enwezor to act as a curator just because of his special sensitivity with regard to this problems. So Kuriger, Johnny, and Envesa, a trilogy in a sense, 3 chapters in a research process engaged by La Biennale in Venice to explore the benchmarks that can help us formulate aesthetic judgments on contemporary art, a critical question following the demise of the avant-garde and non-art. Okwui does not claim to pass judgment or prognosticate. His wish is to bring together arts and artists from throughout the world and from different disciplines to instate a parliament of forms, as it were, a global exhibition where we may question or at least listen to artists. 136 artists have been called in, 89 of whom are here for the first time. They come from 53 countries, and many of them come from geographical areas that we insist on defining as peripheral. From the works on display, 159 are expressly realized for this edition, so they are new. And all of this will help us uncover the latest tendencies regarding the geography and routes taken by contemporary art, thanks to a special project focusing on the curricula of the artists operating around the world. So we will have a parliament for a biennale of varying and intense vitality. We know that evoking the dramatic, the tragic facts and events and occurrences that characterize the present also means admitting history into the Biennale. The present, after all, demands to be understood through the signs, symbols, and recollections that history accords us and from which we draw a sense of desperation, but also of illumination. This also means evoking the fragments of our past, which cannot be forgotten and should not be forgotten. The Biennale unquestionably provides a very special stage for this exercise. Everything here is exhibited against the backdrop of the Biennale's 120-year history. Those fragments of the past come from all nooks and crannies, from every corner. We work in art, architecture, dance, theater, music, and cinema. They are also present in their historical archive, in the images that they are conserved, in its catalogue, and in the pavilions built by the different countries at various points in time, thanks to different initiatives, and they therefore constitute a very different venue from that of a traditional exposition. This is the place of the so-called dialectical images, to mention the words of Walter Benjamin, who's frequently mentioned and quoted to this Biennale. Okwui will certainly quote an expression used by Benjamin when he described one of the many angels drawn by Paul Klee, the one that was called Angelus Novus, whose face is turned toward the past, where a chain of events appears before us, but he sees a single catastrophe. He would like to stay, to stop and awaken the dead, but a storm is blowing from paradise and has caught in his wings. This storm drives him irresistibly into the future. And so I feel compelled to evoke this image briefly and imagine the expressions of Klee's angel on those entering the Biennale, who, surprised and fearful, will observe all the specks and shards of the past deposited in this place where memory, time, and space combine. Here, in fact, memory, time, and space do come together. And I feel comforted by the fact that every 2 years here in Venice, we have a new storm of energy that drives us irresistibly into the future. So, once again, I'm extremely glad that I did not listen to the regrettable considerations made in 1998, claiming that the exhibition with foreign pavilions was outmoded and that it should be done away with, perhaps in favor of a white cube, an aseptic space in which to erase history, exercise our abstract presumptions, or offer hospitality to the dictatorship of the market. It is indeed our multifaceted and complex reality that helps us avoid perils such as these. The great mountain of the fragments of our history grows year by year. Opposite to that stands the even greater mountain of all of that was not shown in past biennales. In this regard, we will often hear Ebbe Warburg being mentioned, being quoted, and his interpretative practices. In order to better understand the work of art, one should place many other works of art close to it, works of art that have some bearing on it. Mnemosyne, in the name he used to refer to his quest, Mnemosyne, the goddess of memory, should be taken into account. In every biennale, the presence of our curator, alongside with the different voices of the curators of the various pavilions, contributes to the emergence of an important value, the pluralism of voices. Parliament of Forms must do that. Finally, in the more intimate biennales, as in the ones that more dramatically draw in history, what is most important is that the exhibition must always be seen as a venue for free and independent dialogue. Thank you. Now I give the floor to Okwui.
Thank you so much, Paolo, for that very rich introduction, not only to the Biennale itself, but this particular edition of its international exhibition. I should like to begin by first extending my gratitude to President Baratta and to the board of directors of the Biennale and the entire institution of the Biennale for giving me the incredible privilege and honor of being the curator of this edition. I am very grateful. And I say this in order to also to underscore that the work we do is the work we make together. And by extending this incredible appointment and proposal for me to organize the 56th International Exhibition of the Biennale, I want to also say it's a work made not so much by me, but it's a work made in common with members of the team of the Biennale, with their expertise, their knowledge, and their resilience over so many years of making this great exhibition that brings all of us to Venice every 2 years, repeatedly, to come and to see what contemporary art represents. I think it's safe to say that we live in incredible times. And I say this because it's almost like a litany that one can repeat over the last 120 years, that we live in incredible times. And each time, it seems to me that this incredulity does not really have any solution. And therefore, it remains a question of hope that somehow these incredible times we live might turn from being a question of permanent transition, but into something that is harmonious with all our desires for how art reflects the nature of our own imaginings and the nature of our own ability to form new visions of the world. I will not speak so much about Paul Klee as Angelus Novus from the perspective of Walter Benjamin, because it's already inscribed in my statement from last year. But I nevertheless evoke that in order to think again about the question of residue as an important element of how this international exhibition has been shaped, particularly through the three filters that I proposed, that if we think about the guardian of this order, we are really thinking about a space of residue, an atomized space whose shards and fragments creates a kind of molecular density from which, if not to build, but to rebuild. But to build and to rebuild, we have to enter into this process of unmaking, of unbuilding. We have to unbuild those walls of separations that separate different views of the future that we have. So all the world's futures is at once a proposal about building as much as it is about unbuilding, of unmaking. There are many things that need to be unmade, to be unbuilt, in order to delve into this. So this space of residue is, for me, very important. And now let me introduce the three filters, the guardian of this order, as a way to sort of to have a picture, as it were, seen from the center of the Giardini and radiating outwards to the rest of the world of really how we can imagine and encounter these incredible times. The second filter on epic duration, reading capital on epic duration has to do with the way in which we create an interpretive concept through which to really reflect on these incredible times. The last one on the last one, which is on liveness, really has to do with how can the space and the time of the exhibition coincide, and how can we make this possible? So, having said all those things, I want to just simply read out to you my final intuition about all the world's futures. In 1974, La Biennale di Venezia, following a major institutional restructuring and the revision of its rules and articles of constitution, launched an ambitious and unprecedented four-year plan of events and activities. Part of the programs of 1974 were dedicated to Chile, thus actively foregrounding a gesture of solidarity toward that country in the aftermath of the violent coup d'etat in which General Augusto Pinochet overthrew the government of Salvador Allende in 1973. It's very interesting to sort of to think, because the same period between 1973 and 1974 was when the Biennale, through a number of public meetings, was able to rethink the very constitution and the structure of the of his programs. So bringing practitioners across the fields of visual arts, cinema, music, theater, dance, and performance, the events of the 1974 Art Biennale were spread across the entire city of Venice. That year's Biennale brought together students, intellectuals, activists, labor union members, cultural associations, and the public at large to discuss and debate the place of art and culture as instruments of social transformation. From this, you can well imagine that I've been sort of, burning the oil lamp in the Biennale's archives, which is just so incredible and so rich and ever, stimulating and unending space of really incredible things that, again, still requires, deep research by, curators, historians, and so on. But today, the remarkable and transformative episode in the history of the Biennale is largely forgotten, this episode I meant. But it is extensively documented in an impressive publication called Annuario 1975 Eventi del 1974. Sorry, I don't say it in Italian, published by the La Biennale di Venezia. The dedication of the programs of events to Chile and against fascism remains one of the most explicit attempts in recent memory by which an exhibition of the stature of the Art Biennale not only responds to but courageously steps forward to share the historical stage with the political and social context of its time. It goes without saying that in view of the current turmoil around the world, that the Biennale's Eventi del 1974 has been a curatorial inspiration. In response to this remarkable episode and the rich documentation it generated, the 56th International Art Exhibition, All the World's Futures, will introduce the Arena, an active space dedicated to continuous live programming across disciplines and located within the Central Pavilion in the Giardini. The linchpin of this program will be the epic live reading of all 3 volumes of Karl Marx's Das Kapital. Here, Das Kapital will serve as a kind of oratorio that will be continuously read live throughout the exhibition's 7-month duration. Designed by the award-winning Ghanaian-British architect David Adjaye, the Arena will serve as a gathering place of the spoken word, the art of the song, recitals, film projections, and a forum for public discussions. Taking the concept of the Sikh event, the Sikh, this is a group from India, called the Akhand Path, a recitation of the Sikh holy book read continuously over several days by a relay of readers, Das Kapital will be read as a dramatic text by trained actors, directed by artist and filmmaker Isaac Julian. During the entire duration of the Art Biennale from 6 May to November 22nd, 2015, these actors will share the stage with a number of other things. So accompanying the live reading of Marx's seminal and still controversial book, a classic work of economic and social analysis, which could not be more relevant for our times, will be a continuous sequence of other oral performances involving the recital of librettos, lyrics, scripts, etc. Carrying out the concept of liveness on epic duration, the Art Biennale has commissioned several new scores and artist performances to be presented continuously in the Arena. And I think if you look in your folder, you can follow some of these. I wanted to foreground this first because it gives you an opportunity to look at the experience of the exhibition. I'm interested, again, in this notion of words, whether spoken, recited, sung, painted, sculpted, written, in all different kinds of ways. It is this way in which the human subjectivity, the attempt to say it, or the guttural utterance, the attempt to enunciate, will form a particular experience of the exhibition all the way through. But before we do that, we begin in the Giardini. The exhibition, of course, is split into two parts, and I'm going to run through these slides very quickly, so please forgive me. In some moments, I'm going to stop, and I'm going to kind of play excerpts of maybe an audio or video. So, as President Baratta mentioned, there have been quite a number of commissions, because one of the things I was fundamentally interested in the exhibition is new work, to ask artists to realize new work. So the exhibition really is one that I've made with the artists through direct active conversation, asking them for proposals, responding to their proposals, and they've given us a harvest of amazing things. I think if there is any legacy for this Biennale, it will be that many of the works that will be shown in the exhibition will be presented for the very first time here. So, so the exhibition opens, in the Giardini. There are a number of projects that will be distributed here, beginning with Rax Media Collective's work, Coronation Park. This park is in New Delhi, and is a kind of gathering place of statues of viceroys and different colonial officials that used to be in different neighborhoods of New Delhi. But after 1947, after the independence of India in 1947, the city gathered many of these statues from the different neighborhoods and brought them into this park, a kind of graveyard of imperial decline. So this piece will be reimagined for the park when you enter into the Giardini. So the Giardini as a kind of fun park with this ride by Castanhola. Another piece by Isa Genskin, maybe specifically can see it towering over the Austrian pavilion. Thank goodness Yilmaz is not here. But this is one of the many works that will be. This is the work by Walid Beshti, series of monumental ceramic sculptures that are being produced in Guadalajara that will be also in the Giardini Santa Elena. Philippe Parinot in the same area near the Greek pavilion. And of course, the procession to the central pavilion and the words. The work by Glenn Ligon, the same on the facade with Oscar Murillo. And then we enter into, it's not so much narration of the exhibition, but just a number of places where you may encounter some works. So the first work you see properly will be this work by Fabio Mauri, rising up to the cupola, and accompanied by a series of drawings ringing in the octagon, finale, the end. And then this work by Mauri. How can I play it? God.
La Guinea, 1962.
This is a recital by Paolo Paolini.
Alle volte è dentro di noi qualcosa che tu sai bene perché è la poesia, qualcosa di oscuro che fa luminosa la vita, un pianto interno, una nostalgia gonfia di asciutte, pure lacrime. Camminando per questa poverissima via di Casarola, destinata al buio, agli acri crepuscoli dei cristiani inverni, ecco farsi in quel pianto sacri i più comuni, i più inutili, i più inermi aspetti della vita. 4 case di pietra di montagna con gli interni neri di sterile miseria, una frase sola sospesa nella triste aria, secco odore di stalla, sulla base del gelo mai estinto, e onoraria, timida l'estate, l'estate, con i corpi sublimi dei castagni, cui fitti, là rari, disposti sulle chine come storpi o giganti dalla pura bellezza. Ah, bosco, deterso dentro, sotto i forti profili del fogliame che si spezzano, riprendono il motivo di una pittura rustica ma raffinata, il Cerutti, il Collezza, non correggio forse, ma di certo il gusto del dolce e grande manierismo che tocca col suo capriccio dolcemente robusto.
Okay, that is, of course, it's a long poem. It lasts for nearly 15 minutes, and it accompanies that work by Fabio Mauri. And of course, from there, the work of Christian Boltanski, this early film from 1969, a 16 millimeter film of a figure inside what seems like an underground room, trying to say something, but, just simply coughing. Beautiful piece, very, very, disturbing. The work of Robert Smithson, Dead Tree, which is a work that was, realized in 1969 that we are recreating in collaboration with the Smithson Estate, which requires a tree, a wild tree that is uprooted with its root balls intact in the gallery, crowned with a series of mirrors around it, and of course, a ring of drawings and some films that will be there. The work of Daniel Boyd, a young Australian artist, looking at different Polynesian navigational charts in this series of paintings. Bruno Lagomasino, again, a young, Argentinian Swedish artist, with some of these pieces. Lena Damiani, another young artist from Peru. And so here, there are a number of figures, such as Maori, whom we are going to be presenting, making special presentations of their work through the exhibition. In the tradition that used to occur in the Biennale in the early part of the 20th century, where there are these special rooms. And one of these special investigations will be dedicated to somebody like Chris Marker, a very influential and amazing filmmaker whose number of his works, both photography, film, and installation, will be presented. Peter Friedel, Theory of Justice, a kind of portrait of the 20th century through images in several vitrines. Rick Ritteran Vanita's demonstration drawings, which there are quite a number of new demonstration drawings, over 100 currently being made that will be here. Adel Abdesamed with this piece, performance, and then the arena. So what we propose to do inside the Central Pavilion, in the really very large space, the kind of prestige space that usually used to be, the kind of the entry point, will be to kind of to change that space into a communal space. And I'm just going to run quickly through this. And this is where all the events of the arena, the live reading, the songs, the performances, the recitals will take place. So what is happening is that when you come into this very large space, there's also the mezzanine on top. We are going to take off the wall that separates the mezzanine from the main space and to join the two together, therefore creating a kind of elongation in the space. And this is where many things are going to happen. Again, trying to sort of to bring this, how the space and time of the exhibition can coincide. Of course, that's Capitol. I've mentioned that. Olaf Nicolai's, piece with live singers and recorded songs that will be also in the arena based on Luigi Nono's Non Consumiamo Max. Jeremy Della with his factory songs that will be again continuously performed live based on the broadsheets published in London and Manchester during the height of the Industrial Revolution. Jason Moran with the work songs.
Picking cotton, cotton picking all day long. Picking cotton, cotton picking all day long. If you want to hear that preacher pray all day long, kill that chicken and give him the way all day long.
Okay. A performance of reading of this 1,380-page book, which lasts 2.5 hours or 3 hours each day. There are about 300 books that this Joanna Haji Thomas and Khalil Jaresh from Beirut will present. And so there's the live reading, which requires 4 or 5 people with beautiful fingers, they said. The work of the anonymous Syrian collective of filmmakers, Abu Nadara. Since the outbreak of the civil war in Syria, this group of filmmakers release a film every Friday. And in collaboration with the Biennale, we will show one of their, their feature film, but every Friday in the arena, we will release each of their new films that are made that week. And then there is Matthew Abonek with the description of this piece is in your package. So many new projects. Olga Shenisheva's graphic performatives. Since the day I invited her more than several months ago, she's been making a drawing a day. And from that, we're going to really looking at conditions of our city, Moscow. A drawing a day, and so we'll see what the result will be. These are some of the, so she sends this to us periodically. And the work of the Egyptian artist, activist, Inji Eflatun, deceased, who emerged in the 1940s, a communist who went to jail from 60 to 64 in the prisons of Gamal Abdel Nasser, and whom upon coming out started kind of making only these kind of very almost lyrical, things that seemingly seem non-political. So we're going to gather a number of Eflatun's, paintings, here. Isaac Julian, Capital. Thomas Hirschon, a new piece that will be Stamsi Kambalu from Malawi, Marcel Brotas with Jardin des Verts. Alexander Kluger's epic film of 10 hours, which is made a special edit of 6 hours for us. It's called News from Ideological Antiquity. Marx, Eisenstein, and Das Kapital. Here are the notes of the film and the kind of organization of arrangement of the film. Madhu Suhanan, an artist from India, based in Kerala, with a series of drawings of the Marx archive, and a new piece he's making specially for the Biennale, the Penal Colony. Gonzalo Mabunda from Mozambique. Walker Evans. We're going to gather the first edition of Let Us Now Praise Famous Men, all 30, which will, come, will be presented here, which is a work he made during the Great Depression in the United States, looking at, poor tenant farmers in the southern part of the United States. New works, Ellen Gallagher. Earth's Creation, from Emily, Kamek in Warea. Here she is making the painting in the Australian bush. She started, painting when she was 80. Uma Baba, series of new sculptures and drawings and photo and collages. Wangeshimutu, Teresa Burga. So, again, I'm really interested in a number of episodes, and I think so with Gursky, we're looking at this. There are two things that are very interesting. Eisenstein had said that it's one must not photograph the stock exchange because it's impossible to represent capital. And Brecht had said that one cannot photograph factories because it doesn't represent what goes on in factories. And of course, Gursky has been interested in this dialectic between capital and labor. This relationship will be explored through a number of selections of his work in the exhibition. Diaries by Peter Friedel. So you can see some artists have a few different works in the exhibition that will be distributed both in the Central Pavilion and also in the Arsenale. So I'm going to run through these images. Marlène Dumas will present a new room of images of small paintings that have never been shown before. She's been working on these paintings, not what you're looking at. She's been working on these paintings for a number of decades. She always makes them when she feels, despair, anger at the world, or doesn't know what to paint. And it's a recurring motif. There are about 50 or 60 of these small paintings that will be in the show. Not these ones. Rosa Baraba. Then Hans Hake is also one of those artists whom we are really looking at anthologies of their work, looking at a very specific, corner of the practice here, Hake's, and we're going to do a kind of survey of of the different polls he's done from '69 to 2015. He's going to do his very first world poll for the Biennale, and the polls are always done against the backdrop of socio-political conditions in the world. And so many of you remember this one, the MoMA poll. So we're gathering some of this material, for the first time in the exhibitions. For example, these ballot boxes from that very seminal exhibition, Information at MoMA in New York in 1970, has been in storage since 1970. So again, we're bringing some of this really to renew our relationship with these things, so both poetic and political. Chris Marker again, Owls at Noon, Crush Art, the photographs and collages, is against skin inside the Central Pavilion, with a series of our outdoor projects that will be also presented, a completely new commission, new work, entirely being produced as we speak. And so you can see there's been an incredible response by many artists. The same with Glenn Ligon, who's making a series of new silk screen paintings that will be also there. Then Fabio Mauri again, with a work that was first presented in 1978 Venice Biennale, which we're going to bring back here. Also has an audio piece. Adrian Piper, series of blackboards, and collages. Okay, I just want to play this. John Akomfra, a new commission. It's not working. Oh, okay. Where's the sound? Okay. Of course, this is only an excerpt of a 45-minute piece, again, made specifically for the Biennale, with, looking at Melville's Moby Dick. Is really about, ecological disaster and violence.
Inside the net, there was big fish.
It's only 3 minutes, so bear with me.
I can't really explain. If anyone fall inside, they will eat that person because those fish were very big. The waves, it can even move a house. The waves.
Some of my friend told me that he's going to jump into the water to kill himself. I said, no, don't kill yourself. Wait to see what is going to happen because I know God can save us.
There were 27 of them on board. None had been to sea before. They come from all across the continent, travelling northwards to the coast.
Shout, Jesus save me, Jesus save me.
Numbers reported dead or missing here this year are the highest ever. Estimated at nearly 500. Last month, on one day alone, 14 dead bodies were found floating in the seal.
The waves, it can even move a house. The waves.
The migrants' boats started taking on water. They made for a huge fishing net being towed behind the trawler. The people traffickers told them the crossing would take less than an hour. It's 120 miles. The pilots swam back to shore and they headed off on what was to become one of the most dramatic survival stories from this year's crossings.
Obviously, this is a trailer, so it's not the film itself. Okay, now, between the Giustinian, there will be, again, different things that will be in the, in different corners, and this is a work by Sadana Afif, corner speaker, right there. This is, so, the Arsenale, very quickly, we return to words, words with their intensity, words with their illumination, with their, shall we say, their almost biohazardous glare and glow. With Bruce Nauman, to whom we're dedicating a room that will be really looking at his, neon sculptures from 1970 to 1983, all on the theme of the human condition, life, death, violence, and all of that. But these different works in the spaces. And then we go into this elongation and, a new piece by Laurent Casadilla for 12 voices, which is performed by Vox Nova, a group from Rome. This will be performed every day, or during the, every week, several times. Again, a new piece. The piece is based on Haydn's The Creation, which of course, the libretto is a combination of Milton's Paradise Lost and the book of Genesis. In any case, so we'll continue with Melvin Edwards' Lynch Fragments, again, another series of surveys of these, sculptures that will have quite a number of them, a survey of these, group of sculptures from the 60s, to now. And then presentation of Terry Atkins, works, this muffled drum, again, a number of really, physical works, a live piece by Tania Bruguera, which was first presented in Havana, lasted only one day during the Havana Biennale in 2000, and of course was shut down by, the authorities. And here we're going to, bring back the, the sugar cane, of course, on the notion of labor and all of that. Again, it's a live work with 4 performers every day in the space. Pino Pascali, then Caterina Grosse, a new piece she's going to make. This is not it, but it will be a site-specific piece. A new film by Chantal Ackerman, which will premiere again here, really looking at the current conditions. It's a 6-screen piece by Ackerman, which is currently being edited, so you can see some of the footages here. This is an example of what Chris O'Philly will do, but it's not the thing itself. It's, again, a new body of work. Another piece by Ayon Kim, an artist from South Korea. A series of new paintings by Georg Basilis, 8 of them that will be, again, presented in an installation. It's a self-portrait, filled with lacerations and all kinds of things. They are really quite monumental, paintings. Wally Beshti inside, Xiao Fei, Christian Boltanski, a live piece from the Atacama Desert in Chile, which will work on the cycle. So it's installed these bells now in the desert, so they're there permanently. It's through a live feed. So the conditions of this piece will be different each day in the exhibition. We'll see if it would work. Okay. Jeremy Deller, another installation. Mathieu Abonek, Adel Abdesemed. Again, lots of new works. Maya Bajevic. For Harun Farokhi, we're going to present Harun Farokhi. We're going to do an atlas of Farokhi's work, which will present all 87 films that he's made, not the installations, just the single channel films. We will gather all of them, and each day, we'll have an installation of the screens, and then each day in an antechamber in a cinema, one of the films will be projected. So this is, again, the experiences that each day will be different of the exhibition. whether it's the live singers, whether it's the film projections, whether it's the weekly release of films by Abunadara, whether it's the performances. So this is really how the exhibition itself is a living thing throughout its run. Labor in a Single Shot, another piece by him. Okay, we are coming to an end of the
So,
another piece.
I don't want to tell you everything that we're going to do here, because
that's
part of the fun is a
just,
surprise.
you know, it's still being edited.
But I want to sort of explain, because there's
Shot in the Victoria and Albert Museum.
I don't want to tell you everything.
Okay, it's about words, recitation. Ricardo Bray, Every Life is a Fire, you know, another, you know, series of works that will be unfolded. Really, these boxes with their incredible discoveries, the way they will travel to the Biennale and unfold. There will be a series of tables of them, maybe about 30. This documentation of prisoners in Louisiana, Nidal Shamek, a young Tunisian artist with these incredible drawings. There are loads of drawings in the exhibition, loads of drawings, loads of graphic, you know, works. Tiffany Chong, an artist from Vietnam, again, the mapping of the Syrian conflict. Cooperativa Creative Antido from Mexico City, and their, the weekly, summits. David Malkovich, new paintings by Victor Mann, Abubakar Mansere from Sierra Leone with his mad, look at, again, these, mad machines. New paintings by Kerry James Marshall. New work by Helen Martin. New film by Naim Mohammed. So, two new sculptures by Jason Moran. It's still in production. It's with sound. A performance made entirely by the audience, by Ivana Müller, which changes every day with the scripts, and Steve McQueen will be a new piece. Okay, I'm just gonna run quickly. As you can see, it's all new work. 2015. It's been quite a journey, working with all the artists, talking to them, engaging them with their ideas, and discussing what they may present. And so this will make up the context of the Biennale. There will be a special piece by this young artist from Ghana. This is not it, but you can see the kind of scale and scope of his work, Ibrahim Mahama, that will be running all along the length of the Koderia. This is a piece by Kutlugataman. This was a kind of portrait of one man through all the people that there's 9,216 LCD panels. A painting a day by Maria Aishon, Rikri Tarambanit, Gary Simmons, wall paintings based on Eisenstein's film Strike, Saladami, Invisible Border group from Lagos, Nigeria. The curriculum, which is a meeting that will take place in August, organized by Creative Time Summit. Talking about Angelus Novus, a sculpture by Xu Bing, a new one that will be in the Gajandre, made out of material from construction sites in Beijing. So this, all these crabs and residues and so on, then, Giardino de Vergini, we have different, projects. New film. Thanks for your attention.
Thank you, Okwui. May I invite to the floor Mr. Carlo Giordanetti, who is representing our partner, Swatch International.
First of all, Okwui, I have to say in Italian, mamma mia, because this is humbling in a big way, I have to say. Per Swatch è la terza volta che siamo partner.
This is the first time we have been partners at Biennale d'Arte in Venice, and every time we have tried to use the space that is given to us just to talk about our journey, a part of our journey. And we were linked with the world of art from the very start of the company, because this was part of the founder's vision. This piece, a small piece of plastic, was to become a vehicle to convey a message with an artistic content. And after 32 years of life of our company, we like to say that we are a sort of art gallery just born on a wrist, or worn on a wrist. For this year, the theme seems to be an ideal mirror of Swatch's vision. We look to the future we focus much more on the future than on the past. And while I was listening to the presentation by the curator, I imagined spending lots of time in Venice to be immersed into the experience of Biennale as he depicted us. And the space the Swatch will have will be at the Tese Theatre, close to Arsenale, a space that we dedicated to a sort of ideal bridge between Venice and Shanghai. Why Shanghai, you will ask? Well, because we have an artist's resident, the Swatch Artist Hotel there, which is a historical place in this city in China, and so far it has played host to 150 different artists. We will have a selection of these artists, and this will link us to what happens within Biennale, because our own space will be transformed over those 7 months. We will play host, we will host different sets of artists who will feel free to interpret space with art. So we will repeat something that actually happened back in history, with a sort of bridge between Venice and the Orient, the Eastern world. The artists will create for us special watches that will be added to the artists' Swatch collections. Over those 7 months, we will have a dynamic presence of them, and also our own dynamic presence within Biennale. And I would like to thank most warmly President Baratta for welcoming us very generously. He listened to our absurd requests. Quite often we had absurd requests. He didn't always say yes, but at least he listened to us. And I would like to thank Okwui, because the experience of living with him will be, for 7 months, will be unforgettable, also for Swatch. Thank you very much. Thank you. Maybe some would like to ask questions. Please feel free. Only you should speak into a mic, because otherwise it is impossible to translate. Excuse me, I know your names. I'm Giovanna Pastega from Piccolo in Trieste. I have a question for the curator. Since this Biennale of yours is one of the most quote-unquote political biennales presented in recent years. The contents, I feel at least, is highly political as a message. So even though the president underscored, as I read in the documentation, that it's not the curator's task to pass a judgment or make predictions, but since this is the approach, I would say, since the contents is highly political, do you want to refer to Western contemporary artists that took some distance over the past decades from using their expressive potentials, their messages, also in political terms, in the highest sense of the term? So is this Biennale a call to them, for them to reappropriate themselves of a political message so that they can play a political role? Some countries haven't forgotten that, whereas other countries have forgotten that role. So are you calling them to order in a way?
Thanks so much for your question. I don't know if this Biennale is any more political than the past Biennales. It depends on the way, the filter, so to speak, if I may use the term, that we, use to read the previous Biennales. And I think it's certainly very clear that what, we've generated, which let me just simply say that I have enormous gratitude to the artists, because it's all about their questions. It's all about their positions, and it's all about the possibilities that they offer. And these possibilities across the board is not only a question of Western artists and non-Western artists. I think, from what I've shown, that it runs, through a spectrum of positions from Africa, the United States, North America, South America, Europe, Asia, and so on. It's a moment of urgency, it's a moment of reflection, and what I'm hoping is that a number of great works will emerge out of this biennial. It always does. The biennial is a testing ground for many artists, and they try to bring their best, and I think that's what makes the Biennale incredibly unique, not only just the national pavilions, it's a testing ground. And the artists, when you invite them, they want to propose what seems to them the most appropriate, the most generative, the most precise, question. So it's all about the, positions of the artists. Now, about the question of the political dimension of the exhibition, I am interested in an exhibition that people have a clear visual, oral, physical, psychological, and emotional response to. That's the way the choreography of the exhibition has been designed, and that's the way we've tried to imagine the spaces of the exhibition with the conversations between works, between artists and their settings. So if there is any politics, I would say, in the exhibition, it will be what I would call the politics of form. So that's what we are really, inside of. It's a politics of form, the capacity of form to speak on multiple and complex levels about what art produces and can produce.
Mani, per favore.
Would you please raise your hands?
Prego.
Grazie.
Thank you. Gisella Iurlini. I'm a teacher myself, and I write for different magazines, and I'm a curator of Life Part. A question. I've seen very few Italian artists, particularly young Italian artists, participating in this exhibition. So my first question is on that. And secondly, how come this year we have very few installations for artists of life art? Is that a precise choice that was made by the curator in both cases?
The first question I know is inevitable. I think it's always a game of numbers, and I think I have no answer for you in terms of why not many Italian artists. Hopefully there will be a lot of Italian artists in the Italian pavilion, which naturally is an extension. Italy is hosting a great exhibition, and I think that's something to take into consideration. Now, I want to go to the question of your second question is about installation work or live work. Well, I mean, I've shown you like a ton of things that are live. I mean, it's inexhaustible. There are tons of them. You say why did we don't have an emphasis on them? I think I've spent time showing so many different things. I think the way the liveness itself has been designed is that we're going to be occupied by it, and we're going to be preoccupied by what many of them will say. So we just have to wait and see. But there are Italian artists, not only just. This division between young and whatever, for me, it's not very interesting, the distinction. It's for me important to see how fresh, how powerful, how fearless somebody like Fabio Mauri, as an artist can be. So it's not only a question of age.
Questions?
All the way there?
You see it, okay. I can't. No, ce n'è una qua. Poi là.
So, Panzeri, il giornale dell'arte. In such an engagé exhibition that also referred to Chile in 1974. What is the role of orality that I think is extremely present from poetry to music? You're going back to a sort of pre-literary civilization, perhaps? A pre-literary or civilization? Are you going back to that?
Well, in a certain way, that's part of the frame. Not necessarily to go back, but to re-engage us with the most elemental of I don't want to sound religious at all, but. But yeah, you're capturing some of it. That's why I say that the words, what they mean, what they convey, in different forms. President Baratta had mentioned the Parliament of Forms, and so on. Just really, the attempt to say it, the attempt in different guises to narrate, to express. And to enunciate, how does the voice work? What is the voice, both in literal sense, in a literary and pre-literary sense as well, and in a metaphorical sense and in a kind of subjective sense as well. So these are some of the things that I found really quite interesting looking through many of the works I looked at. Of course, I could have taken a completely different direction, and I didn't, and that's why when looking back at Bruce Nauman's, both illumination and also the glare of those flashing words, eat, death, raw, war, they call to mind many things, and the physicality of that for me is really quite important. But I think you are really, you kind of captured the frame, as it were,
Ditemi voi.
Hello?
Dov'è?
Diana Marrone.
Diana Marrone.
Words magazine. We are a literary magazine. How do you will try to figure out the reactions of some political bodies or states that could cause restraints like what happened to Tania Bruguera recently? Or how do you think to face front to possible protests or very active reactions as such a section, so, for instance, Arena section or the Syrian movies? Do you expect different reactions, sometimes violent?
I hope not. I hope not. Yeah, it's so we are really, there obviously exists a tension between iconoclasm and an anti-iconoclasm. So, and it's not necessarily a battle, but I think it's something that obviously we are living with at this particular moment. The fragility of the space and the very, very tiny margin that exists for artists to work in many different parts of the world. So I'm not anticipating. I'm really thinking that the arena is more a place of gathering, a place of the work we make together. I hope that's the way it will be received. Well, Tania Bruguera, as you know, is an artist that I've really admired for a long time. I've worked with her since the 90s in various exhibition contexts. She's always an uncompromising artist, both in terms of the demand of our work, but she's also a fearless artist. And she's currently under house arrest in Havana, as we all know. Hopefully she's able to come. But I did not I extended the invitation to Tania before she was under house arrest. This was, an invitation I invited her, in June last year. So it's just simply the nature of the changing stakes of the place of art and artists in various, societies that has brought her again to light. And seems to me that the decision we made in June last year to present this work seemed entirely appropriate, because I was in Havana in 2000. I saw this performance, and the next day it was gone. And I wanted to bring this back, because first and foremost I thought it was a really very strong, amazing piece.
Yes.
Sì, buongiorno. Sono Paolo Patarca.
My name is Paolo Patarca. I'm the director of the association Cinema Venire. I wanted to thank you. Thank you. In your selection, you included many works that also concern the world of video art and art related to cinema in general. And I wanted to ask you another question, however, tying back to what the other journalist said with regard to the fact that this exhibition seems to be highly political. So it puts art in relationship with life and with what is happening at this very moment in time. And so my question is the following. To what extent what is happening in the world and in our lives, in the lives of all of us, to what extent is that reflected in the artists' lives? In the relationship that the artist has with his reality and that he manages to put into the works of art. In this exhibition, can we speak about existential art? This space that was dedicated to the arena, to see to it that there is a relationship between the artist and the audience, the viewers, the public, and vice versa. I think that is indeed moving in that direction. Is that true?
In some parts, yeah, but I wouldn't, begin by giving categories to art, existential art or this. But, one of the things that is important to also notice that the seemingly political dimension of the works, can also be read in very abstract ways, and I think that there's a great deal of abstraction in the, as well as a concrete in the exhibition. And I think this is, to construct a path that is not purely didactic, for me is very, very important, because the experience of the work and the materiality of the work is, are just as important, for the layering of the experience of the exhibition as it is with the quote-unquote the message. The arena, for me, is an opportunity, to convene. It's a space of convening, of meeting, and to put it, as it were, as almost like the central nervous system, inside the central nervous system of the exhibition. And this, for me, is really one reason why, especially for the younger audience, who are looking for places to meet, to discuss, to think, to reflect, to listen, and to dream, So this is what the arena kind of, represents, this place of convening, this place of gathering. I began my presentation by talking about our common work. And this is not outside our common work in this sense. It remains to be seen how effective this tool will be, but it's not an attempt to have a direct transposition of reality into the frame of the exhibition, but to really pursue a mechanism that enables us to follow things as they unfold. So even though we're saying Abu Nadara will present a film every week, there might be weeks where they might not be able to produce a film. So we have to live with that off chance that, as we've been discussing with them every Thursday, the edited, so that means that the things that's made in situ every Thursday, the film will arrive, and, we have to convert it, transfer it, and, project it. And there may, so we need to live with that off chance. So the temporality of the exhibition as well as the spatial manifestation of the exhibition are two things that for me remains really completely, constant.
Sergio Frigo del Gazzettino. Sì.
Sergio Frigo, Il Gazzettino. Two questions. The first for Mr. Baratta, the first for the director. I found it hard to find a common thread linking the works you have presented with the thematic nuclear. I would like to ask something. You have identified two different nucleuses of content, two different expression modalities, the part of the exhibition that takes place in the Arsenale and the exhibition that instead is exhibited at the Giardini, or is it a single thread linking the two parts? Is it a unicum or is it an articulated exhibition? For President Baratta instead, I'd like to ask whether over and beyond the anticipation of the beginning of the exhibition, is there something that connects this exhibition to the Milan Expo? I haven't seen this except for the starting before of the exhibition. We have anticipated the opening of the exhibition at the beginning of May, exactly because the expo was being inaugurated a few days before. So we thought we might send a message of national solidarity. I would define this like that. A message of attention of the country that knows what is happening a few kilometers away from Venice. And there are connections as well, not only disconnections. We have wondered many times whether the visitors that will visit the expo with its themes might be the same that will decide to visit the Biennale. We know that those who come and visit the Biennale are extremely different from the visitors that come to Venice to visit Venice. So we are not turning to Expo considering it as a commercial initiative. We do not want just a slice of the cake. We are making our exhibition available for those who were invited by our country, by Italy, to another event. We offer them the possibility to be in Italy not only as ordinary tourists, but also to come and visit what we are doing in Italy. After saying this, there are no organizational connections with the expo. We haven't joined tickets, for example, single tickets. Expo has gone its way with its models, its organization. It was turning to people who put on the web their initiatives for the expo. And if they want to be known with the expo brand, we prefer to have our own brand standing alone by itself. We are just a collateral event to Expo. We hope, however, that those who come to Italy in that period of the year will think of visiting a city of art, and why not visit the art exhibition in Venice as well. It is just a question of sensitivity, institutional sensitivity and cultural sensitivity, I would say, by our country, than a mere economic calculation to catch visitors.
Yeah, to the question of the red, a red thread, I think I've tried to maybe to think on much more prismatic terms than in a linear, direction. So I'm hoping that there will be no red thread, and that the thread will be constantly broken as you go through the exhibition.
Hi.
One third, you said. No one third. Two thirds. Three.
Hi. Maria Teresa Antoniotti, La Voce di New York. Grazie molto.
Maria Teresa Antoniotti, The Voice of New York, thanks for your work and for the stimuli the Biennale is providing to all of us. Every time I see the Biennale, I always think that how much the organizers, how much work do the organizers have to do to involve and capture the attention of young people, young Italians in particular, but young foreigners as well. And we see this all over the world. Museums, cultural activities, in particular in the Anglo-Saxon countries, are focused in particular to young visitors, to young generations, proposing them culture, because this is the great message of art. Do you agree with this? A nice question. I will answer with statistical data. The visitors during the last Biennale were 48% young people, young visitors. Biennale has a machinery, an organizational machinery for the educational sector with the relations with the schools in Italy, Austria and Switzerland that every year brings here from 25,000 to 35,000 students of all levels of school in pre-organized visits, pre-structured visits, regulated with a system of guides that are one of the reasons of pride for the Biennale. People working at this all during the whole year because our work starts now when schools are ending. We have created for universities a program that is named Biennale Sessions. We started 3 years ago, and we work very well with architecture in particular because we have architectural universities, faculties of architecture. And we write every year to a number of faculties of architecture proposing our program, a visit organized by them for at least 50 people, students and professors, with a 3-day stay in Venice to visit the Biennale, with the possibility of a seminar with an initiative that is becoming part of their curricula, a structured visit to the Biennale. We have started with 35 faculties the first time. The second time, the universities were 74. Last year, there were 120. Less than half were Italian universities. The rest range from Columbia University to the University of Peking to Israeli University, Latvian universities, 10 faculties of architecture from Germany, I must say, which tells a lot about their way of organizing university structures. There are countries that have extremely bureaucratic universities and others that have a different instrument. For young artists, we have the Biennale College program. In the Biennale, we will provide you with a lot of information if you are interested in. For example, for theater, we have 12 days in August with 350 students that take part in seminars with important directors to produce plays and works for theater. We have Biennale Cinema, the unique initiative in the world that has a selection of directors and young producers, and from this first selection, we choose 12 couples of authors who come here working for 15 days, helping them to create their movie. From these 12, we choose 3, and with the support of a sponsor, we fund the production of this low-cost film with 150,000 euros, a film that will then be screened at the film festival in Venice in September. After our first two experiences, we have won an award in the United States by The Independent. Two films were invited at the Sundance Festival, and one was invited in Berlin, at the Berlin Film Festival. And the same happens with music. The music festival this year will have an extraordinary number of young performers and composers. But going back to the audience in general, to the visitors in general, I should always bring with me, and I never convince my staff to do so, that is the most significant figure for Biennale, the presence of educational structures in the Giardini and in the Arsenale. The fact that these schools come here to spend a day to work together and then maybe listen to a concert has enabled us to make the most beautiful picture of my period, my stay here at the Biennale. At Boulez, at the Contemporary Music Festival, a subject that is considered as difficult to understand for the ordinary public, as the educational structure is working very well. The room was full of young people with their backpacks. And I have this picture of Boulez surrounded by young admirers with their backpack on. That is the symbol of the Biennale, I think. If the pictures of Biennale during school months, October, November, are full of crowds of young people visiting our Biennale,